Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this webinar. So we have all gathered here to discuss about the resource adequacy handbook and in a larger aspect about that project. So I would like to invite Ramakrishnan to take this forward.
Very good afternoon to all the panelists, to this and to all the participants. Welcome, and I hope you had your coffees and chais. So I'll just start with the presentation. I hope everybody is able to see my screen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome again to the imperative for an integrated resource adequacy. Uh, so, firstly, to understand why resource adequacy. So I think one of the most important aspects is the growing demand. In fact, the varying demand that we must say, that is accompanied by population growth and consumption, that is also increasing the energy demand and industrial expansion. And one of the reasons is the technological advancement that is also contributing to this growth. So for this, reliable, scalable energy systems are needed to meet the demand and to ensure supply security. The second is the imperative for a strategic power planning, where your power system planning along with generation is also effective for large scale energy delivery. And this also includes a proper demand estimation and forecasting, proper grid infrastructure investment and modernization. There also has to be some proactive strategies to help prevent the supply demand imbalances. And these sort of imbalances, as we see, electricity and energy are mm, creating lives and livelihoods. So imbalances could also destabilize economies. And a very important factor at this crucial juncture is the clean energy transition that is happening. With the shift to renewables like solar and wind, there is going to be a lot of variability in the procurement of the primary energy that is required to produce electricity. So this sort of weather dependence creates unpredictability in energy generation. So that is where traditional grid management faces challenges. So for which we need systems that are reliable, flexible, and resilient. And this is where resource adequacy comes in. The idea of resource adequacy, where uh, the ensuring of power systems to meet peak demand at all times has to be done sustainably in a manner where there is a balance of grid and frequency and there is stability across the electricity supply chain. So this is the timeline of timeline of the resource adequacy metrics. As you can see in the 90s, 70s, and 80s, the traditional resource adequacy started off with the loss of load expectation. And by 1990s and 2000s, the shift was rapid towards enhanced metrics that measures magnitude and the shift to probabilistic measurement of resource adequacy. And by 2010, we had the emphasis on low impact, low frequency, high impact events, and also the comprehensive frameworks that are required across the supply chain. Some of the limitations of traditional resource adequacy is one is the siloed planning, your bulk power system planning that only focused on generation in response to outages that were happening. And there was only peak focus or that only peak load assessment that was based on historical load data. And that sort of ignores the real-time variability that was happening. And also, there is no scope for flexibility or resilience because with growing renewables and growing varying demand, the assumption of steady supply or does not hold true. And it cannot adapt to the fluctuations coming in from renewables, also leading to voltage surges or instability. And also, the traditional resource adequacy also lacks demand integration, where the mechanisms of demand side management or distributed energy resources is also to an extent neglected. So I think the modern needs incorporate the rise of bidirectional flow of power and variable renewable penetration that is happening. And the evolution has reached to a point where systems planning requires a very holistic approach that integrates the various components of supply chain that ensures not only that not only ensures steady generation, but also adequate transmission and distribution infrastructure to deliver power supply to the final consumer. So I think the integrated approach should ideally integrate supply chain management, resilient infrastructure, and effective load management strategies. I think this is where the integrated resource adequacy framework proposes to make a change, because when you have a traditional resource adequacy assessment, there is a lot of complexity involved in planning and handling real-time needs and demand. And whereas the resource integrated resource adequacy assessment takes in more flexibility and comprehensive system coverage when it comes to resource adequacy. And this is the integrated resource adequacy framework that we have proposed, where we primarily consider demand assessment as one of the important aspects, where understanding long-term or short-term needs is also interlinked to the demand that is happening at various points in time. And this is also equally met by security of supply that includes components like fuel adequacy that ensures the fuel available to generate power, and followed by generation adequacy, the generative abilities of power plants to generate power, and the adequate network infrastructure that is required to transmission, distribution, and operations to ensure that the power supply is reliable to the final consumer. And to this IRA framework, we have electricity market also complementing. Even though we have the market in nascent stages in India, we think that the role of electricity markets will also make a great difference to the concept of resource adequacy. And we also have the measurement, the standards of reliability and resilience that runs throughout the system, ensuring balance between risk and uncertainties. And this is the IRA framework, the taxonomy that we have. And as you can see, we have refined, and also we have a sort of given some new terminologies. For example, we have operations adequacy, we have fuel adequacy, and generation adequacy introduced. So as you can see, these are definitions that we have refined, and you can go through the handbook to understand more on the taxonomy of resource adequacy and its components. And these are some of the metrics that we have mapped with the literature that is widely available. I think we have used around more than 200 sources of literature to get to arrive at this. And we have also sort of compressed the entire universe of resource adequacy into 4 to 5 chapters. And I think we have tried to give justice to that also. So as you can see, we have different kind of matrices, and what is called as traditional resource adequacy with your deterministic metrics and probabilistic metrics that covers the load and generation aspect falls under generation adequacy. So these are some of the matrices we have tried to capture. And again, you can refer to the handbook if you want to have an extensive read, or if you're curious to know more about these. And one of the core dimension of the integrated resource adequacy framework is threefold. So one is reliability, which ensures the uninterrupted electricity delivery under normal conditions. This is where your standard reliability matrices, your resource, the loss of the frequency, the magnitude, and resource contribution matrices come into picture. But moving ahead, we have renewable energy coming in. We have so much of varying demand happening, as I said earlier. So the system's ability to adjust operations to match those changes in demand and supply to ensure flexibility in generation is also required. And the system should also be in a state where it has the ability to withstand the external events or threats that is happening in terms of weather or other uncertainties or the low frequency, high impact events. And that is the reason why we need resilience. And moving forward to achieve an ideal stage of resource adequacy, we have also tried to have what counts as an ideal stage of resource adequacy. The basic idea of resource adequacy would be the ability of the power system to ensure that there is sufficient generation, transmission, and distribution and storage resources available to meet electricity demand at all times. But At the same time, there is also extended reliability across the power system, because when you talk of resource adequacy in a particular component, when you talk of transmission adequacy, when you talk of operations adequacy, the reliability there alone will not ensure your resource adequacy at the supply chain level. So the advanced analysis of resource adequacy in countries could also include reliability and resilience in extension to basic resource adequacy. So electricity markets and resource adequacy, even though, as I said, in India, electricity markets are at a very nascent level. So one, to ensure resource adequacy is to understand the real-time signal, the market changes that are happening, the balancing and long-term procurement via contracts and supporting system adequacy that is happening. And in monetary terms, through price signals. So different market models and the regulatory models that are existing affects how resource adequacy is also ensured. And to complement this, there are also mechanisms like capacity markets, auctions, and forward contracts that are required to address the key issues of reliability and flexibility need in the real time. And we've also devised an implementation roadmap for an integrated resource adequacy. So it starts with establishment of a national resource adequacy committee that sort of understands the planning processes that is involved at the country level, at the regional and the sub-regional levels, and also the integration of such a framework into existing planning frameworks, if that is feasible, and also have cross-sectoral collaboration with different sectors to understand the demand and end-use consumption, and to account for proper demand estimation, and also the localization of these integrated frameworks at the regional and sub-regional levels for a decentralized planning and dissemination of the framework. And also, it is also important to have the private sector and their contribution, because it is also important to sort of encourage different players in the market, and capacity building initiatives, the people behind the wheel at system operations level, at the planning level, to sort of train them, to sort of empower, to sort of make them understand the concept of resource adequacy at the electricity supply chain level. And followed by this, as we are moving towards the bidirectional flow of power and smart grids, it's also important to understand the role of technology and the modeling tools that are available to measure resource adequacy, which is very important, because a complex integrated resource adequacy framework will also include meta modeling approaches that is very important. And followed by this is continuous monitoring and feedback mechanisms. It can be annual, biannual, or it can also be semi-annual, 6 months time, where you have regulatory feedback mechanisms to understand the implementation and then the progress of resource adequacy in a particular state or region or at the country level. And followed by this, I think what more important is the grid and system resilience that comes into picture. So governments and stakeholders will also have to think of integration of resilience metrics into policy and regulation. And followed by this would be data standardization and transparency, because we need more than historical data. We need real-time data, granular data that is required, and even weather data to understand the variability in demand, to understand and the variability in supply as well. And the approach of FSR Global towards resource adequacy is three-part. So the first being the handbook is to theoretically standardize the resource adequacy and generate a taxonomy and an integrated framework, including all the components of demand and supply and electricity market, followed by which we will have a four-part workshop series where we'll be engaging with stakeholders, planners, and research organizations in understanding what metric and what level of planning is required for India. And in 2025 itself, I think in September or October, we will have a working group called Modeling India's Resource Adequacy, or MIRA, to understand the modeling approaches to resource adequacy, and will it what the amount of the feasibility of such a task. So that's that, and you can access the handbook. This is the QR code. Um, yeah, that will be it. Thank you very much. I think I would I think Amrita. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
My daughter, I would now like to Right. Baba sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ramakrishna, for giving a good overview of the IRA framework that we are proposing. For actually, the resource adequacy is an activity. Once upon a time, only capacity planning used to be the planning.
Yeah.
Now the situation has changed with the advent of renewables, changing, demographies, changing demand patterns. So we need to relook and everything together again. So, the IRA framework is really essential for resilient and reliable power system. So I welcome all the panelists and esteemed panelists and the members or participants in this webinar. I am told that Mrs. Samir and Abhishek ji have to leave for a meeting immediately. Before we try to, designate a time. So I'll cut short whatever I wanted to say. Let me go back straight away to the panel discussion. See, first of all, for anything implementation, as he has mentioned a roadmap, there are 10 activities. So the capacity building is the one and first and foremost set, because we need to take up this RA every day. It is not, once for all exercise. It is, we have long term, medium term, short term, and day ahead, like, and a month ahead. Like, there is enormous amount of scope. So we cannot depend on the vendor based or normal packages. So we need to prepare ourselves with the capacity also and tools also. So in this regard, I'll first go to Sri Radhakrishna, former chairman TERC, Tripura Electricity Regulatory Commission. And so, sir, first of all, any work that we undertake, the most important part comes is the regulatory commissions. Actually, are the government institutions. How basically they empower or show a way how to undertake this resource adequacy. So how would you, react to my request or, statement?
So if you see for past 25 years, the growth of the power sector was from 1 lakh megawatt to we have gone to 5 lakh megawatt. And it was not possible without the regulatory support. I'll change the word now, regulatory adequacy. So if you go through it, our solar mission or whatever the renewable energy promotions and even thermal power, power met, all things we have been in and out trying to support the stakeholders. And even at the consumer end also, the resource adequacy will need to be addressed it. I was just wondering, like we need to have like demand and supply for next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, how the consumption level need to be increased in this country. I was just jokingly saying that from living room to kitchen, we need to bring the electricity from living room to kitchen. And that is not possible unless regulatory supports are in place today. I'll tell you the power consumption, power peaking loads have coming at night, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock night. So we need to address all those things because most of the ACs are there. With data centers are opening up, last year we sold around 1.5 crore ACs. For a 50 crore houses, so every 50th person, every 30th person has bought one AC, but he has not replaced last ACs also. So this kind of a growth is also coming up, and we need, as a regulator, I was trying to promote all these things in a big way, in a possible way rather. I'll not say big way, in a possible way. Whatever the way I could make it out, I was trying to address the issues. So we need to, like, economics also to be considered, renewal also be considered, discoms have health also to be considered, and all this is not possible without a regulatory support right now. That is what I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, sir. we require, I mean, just as a follow-up, because you said regulatory, see, the point is, we have made a lot of regulations at central level or a transmission level, but to show its real impact at the state level, so we need to take these regulatory provisions to the more granular level at the state level. See, ultimately, the resource adequacy has to be seen bottom up, not only the top down. So I feel so. What is your opinion on the granularity part of it? Like the state, ultimately the more effective when it starts from bottom.
Exactly. Exactly. And a state, the very concept of putting up state regulators in the country was forget the concurrent list and all. That was the very purpose of that. Ki like state levels, different levels need to be resolved in a manner it comes to that. And we have been, you see, most of the 28, 29 regulators, we are trying to work to the last miles reach to the electricity. So that is the way we are trying to work out the distribution. State, when you are talking the state mostly covered up the distribution levels. And distribution level tariff and like electricity, solar, what your rooftop solar and everything is coming up, and we are trying to give the best of the support. So that is my say in the matter.
Okay. I'll come again to you.
Yeah.
Let me, Sri Abhishek Ranjan, see the most important aspect of the resource adequacy is while I always talk about the bottom up, demand assessment is the most bottom part of the resource adequacy. What is the present level of demand assessment in various states? See, scientifically it is being done, and how more effective steps that are required, and what is our capability of demand assessment actually?
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the organizers and the FSR Global. See, demand assessment, you rightly said, is the key for a proper or the base for the proper resource adequacy. Now, we talk about two kinds of demand. One is the total demand, that is the net demand. The net demand is nothing but the total demand minus the embedded generation, which is maybe rooftop solar generation or whatever generation is embedded within the distribution network. In Delhi, you also have waste to energy plants as well. Now, there are two ways of doing demand forecasting. Demand forecasting, there are two ways. One is the top down, another is bottoms up. So top down meaning, first of all, garbage in, garbage out. Therefore, the input data, metered data is very, very important. That too, availability of the same in 15-minute time interval. So one is a day ahead demand forecast, another is maybe 2 hour ahead demand forecast on a rolling basis for real-time power scheduling and dispatching. Day-ahead demand forecast maybe for day-ahead market price purchase, etc. Then you also have month ahead, year ahead, and maybe long-term demand forecast for broader array studies for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, etc. Now I'll start from the real-time, that is 2 hour ahead demand forecast and day-ahead demand forecast. Mainly the availability of the SCADA data, and apart from that, the ABT meter data, which determines the input. Like for example, in Delhi, the ABT meters are there, which belong to NRLDC. And for us, the DISCOMs, the ABT meter belong to Delhi Transco Limited, which is ST. So availability of the data in 15-minute format is the first and foremost prerequisite. Apart from this, the historical demand, and that too demand met plus outages, that means unrestricted demand, URD. So that is very, very important. And next obviously is the very accurate weather forecasting for the area. So weather combiner, maybe not single source of weather forecast would be very accurate. You could have multiple 4-5 service providers taken together. And then when you take these data, when I say weather meaning precipitation, humidity, forecast, and rainfall, cloudiness, major, these are the, and wind, gust, these are the major parameters. Now, basis this, you prepare a weather index, and that is being used to, for example, we have been using since 2017 the regression models, basically using AI methods, wherein all these data points, URD, the historical one, the say if it is a day ahead, meaning previous day demand, and there are multiple mapping patterns. So, for example, same day, previous year, different models are there for weekday, weekend, special week holidays, etc. Basically, AI based ensemble model. When I say ensemble meaning ensemble of different AI models, and the best of it would be chosen using artificial intelligence basis which day it is for which you're going to forecast. So accuracy has improved. The MAPE is about say 4% on a daily average day ahead basis, now going down to 3. And second is the bottoms up. So bottoms up meaning 11 kV feeder and up. So that we have started recently. The results are promising. Intraday demand, that is hour ahead, 2 hour ahead demand accuracy is about 98 to 98.5%. And that too again on the AIML basis. Apart from this, when you talk about month ahead, year ahead, or 10-year ahead, then there are different patterns. Mostly what they are being in states is being done is CAGR, but CAGR alone will not help. So apart from CAGR, the most important thing now we have to do is net demand. Net demand meaning whatever renewable you have in portfolio, be it inside your distribution, or you have tied up from outside your distribution area, maybe RE complexes in Gujarat, Rajasthan, MP, Maharashtra, etc. Now, prediction of RE generation becomes very important because that is going to drive the demand forecast, that is net demand forecast. So the new dimension which have been added is the forecasting of the renewable energy PPA that you have signed when the discounts. This is the new challenge which has happened. So otherwise, the year ahead or 10-year ahead demand, mostly CAGR patterns and regression method not regression method. That was the synergy between GDP growth and the demand growth. So there are end use methods that CA, partial end use method, what CA practices. And then there is a GDP growth versus electricity correlation method. And best of it, whichever is giving you the better results is there. Because the long-term demand, you no need to be accurate at a very short level. It could be broad ones for resource adequacy. So that is what it is. So accuracy of demand in most of the states, to my knowledge, may not be very accurate. And we need to work upon that on a very war footing basis, especially usage of AI and ML models. We are using one now. So we have been using for the top-down approach since 2017. Now we have started for 11 kV feeder and upwards very recently. And so that is very important, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I will move to the Samir. Yeah, there is. You are the. Grid system operator is again the focal point of resource adequacy, because the system reliability and security will be entirely on the system operators, not only at the national level, at the regional level and the state level. So moving from the only generation capacity, now we are moving overall resource adequacy. So we are the IRA framework. How do you support the idea of looking into the various different aspects of, because CA does only the capacity planning. But the system operator has to look after many other aspects. Like IRA has proposed the generation adequacy, fuel adequacy and all. How do you support this aspect and this approach, how do you say?
Thank you, sir. And first of all, thank you to FSR Global for having me here today on this panel to be able to share my views. And I must compliment FSR for the document that they have published. And it is a very comprehensive document. And it is something good to start with, and it should help the users. Coming to the question Mr. Baba has asked, I see that there are 3 pillars to resource adequacy, which is my understanding. First of all, generation. Second is transmission adequacy. And third, from the distribution side, how you are able to forecast. So I think Abhishek has already spoken on forecasting in quite a detailed manner. But of course, demand forecast is the first and the foremost step where, of course, a lot of effort must go to be able to come out accurate, as accurately as possible. I won't say very accurate, but then, of course, as accurately as possible, factoring not only econometric factors, the demand growth, the statistical part, but also the weather part, because weather is of course a challenging phenomena. Day in, day out, we are observing a lot of challenges there. And short term, we may have some degree of visibility, but we have seen cases where even intraday visibility of weather is sometimes not as accurate. But then going to different time horizons of resource adequacy, you would need visibility on longer term basis in terms of weather parameters also. Having said that, the second important part is the generation side. To be able to meet the demand, the other part is the generation side. As system operators, we are primarily concerned with the availability of the resources, generation resources, but then at the back end, each generator must also have adequacy of fuel side. So fuel supply chain is also very equally important, but that is behind the generator. So we do not directly get involved in it, but then it is of critical importance from the availability of generation standpoint. The third aspect is transmission adequacy. Transmission, of course, if you have all the generation, but say critical lines are out of service, you will not be still able to meet the demand. So all the three elements I consider very, very important. So using advanced forecasting tools, having adequate and in-place transmission, and then of course the generation part. From a longer term perspective, generation planning must also somehow integrate the transmission side as well, because you need to have adequate transmission also. And this, I think, is being done by the CA in terms of capacity expansion, plus also the integrated resource planning, the IRP that they are carrying out does consider some sort of transmission as well. So I think these are the important elements. And of course, the important levelizer has to be the electricity markets, where the surplus and the shortfalls can be met. Access to market is the other important aspect for resource adequacy. So I would stop at this aspect at this point, and maybe thank you for this once again.
Yeah, actually, you have touched upon my next question actually about the markets. I was about to ask you what about the markets part will play its role in this capacity planning and all. So whether the market design is prevalent now or available now, is it sufficient or it has to take any new shape?
What I would say is that the market design is a continuously evolving process. We cannot say that we have reached there, and this is the ultimate that has happened. We have recently introduced a resource adequacy initiative in multi-year horizon. CA is doing it on a 10-year horizon, and we are doing it as system operators on 1-year horizon. But then in different time frames, we need products, we need access to markets to be able to procure capacity in case we are shortfall, or sell capacity. Either way, if we are having any kind of surplus. So different time horizons, we should have market mechanisms and products available for that. And of course, there has been a lot of discussion happening around the possibility of capacity markets. What kind of capacity markets are required in the short-term horizon? Maybe existing capacity can participate, but going forward in a longer-term horizon, if we need capacity expansion, then new capacity must also get built. So access for that is also required. So market mechanisms have an important role to play. And on the minute-to-minute adequacy and the balancing part, the day-ahead, the real-time markets, these are very, very important. But as a matter of principle, each utility must plan for adequacy of its demand and including reserves. Of course, a small percentage can be met through market depending on the kind of supply-demand situation we have.
Okay, thank you. I am told that you have to leave in another 5 minutes or 6 minutes. So actually, I thought of coming in a cyclic manner, but I'll try to finish my points of discussion with you. what are the necessary coordination mechanism with various stakeholders with reference to resource adequacy like CEA, state utilities, Grid India, and DISCOMs also, SLDCs and DISCOMs, what capabilities they need to have and what coordination you are proposing?
So actually, you see, if you really want to do a good RA study, bottoms-up approach is essential. Need to start from the bottom, have a DISCOM do its resource adequacy plan, have its forecasting done correctly first of all, then maybe at the state level, aggregate the state, and then come to the regional and the national level. So first of all, forecasting capabilities need to be strengthened to a great degree. So that is the first and the foremost. Second, it is this resource adequacy study is a very, very data intensive study, and a huge amount of data of different kinds, different time horizons, generation, transmission, demand, all kind of things are required. So this data must be available to the system operators right from DISCOM level and right up to the national level. This should be available, and there should be free flow of data. Free flow of data in the sense that there should be an integrated approach. And once we have an integrated approach and access to data, more or less the study proposed by a state may very well be aligned with the study may be done at the national level, because in the absence of data we make assumptions and then probably we may not be able to make the best of it. However, we still need to make it, but to the extent possible this has to be aligned. The third important element is what tool is being used for the study. So if you are using a tool which is widely different, okay, it is fine. You can use, you must have the freedom to use whatever tool you have access to. But by and large, the principles and the design captured should have enough regulatory frameworks available so that you have clarity of thought as to what the model is expected to do, how the things function. And this also has a role to play in terms of portability of data. If you are using two entirely different models, then you must also ensure that data is portable between models so that you are able to integrate the state level, the regional level, and the national level studies in all these things. The other important aspect is that the metrics against which you are qualifying the study, against which you are measuring the outcomes, they also should be standardized. What you are looking at, what are the tolerance levels, what is the ideal, maybe say reserve margin that you are supposed to do. All these aspects must be common for all so that we are looking at a goal which is aligned largely. And of course, having said this, a huge amount of capacity building effort must go on for all at all levels. In fact, right from starting from DISCOMs to the state, to the regional and the national level. So I think, and of course, the planners also have a very important role to play. Ultimately, the planning model must also be dovetailed into the daily operational model as well. We should be able to somehow converge the two at some point in time. So those are the other important aspects that need to be taken care of.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. I'll now come to Dr. Indradeep. See, you are listening from all the three experts. So there is the big elephant in the, very responsible or most important is the tool actually. What tools that we require to undertake this resource adequacy? In your viewpoint, can this be, because see, this what Mr. Samir has said is that there is a data portability and all. Suppose, can we think of a integrated approach of all the, where open source software sort of a thing can be made available to all these utilities, and so the things can be portable, make it portable from one region to another region or one state to other state. What do you say about this collaborative effort of developing a tool of RA?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Baba. And I would like to express thanks to Ta and Ramkrishnan and FSR Global for this wonderful handbook that recently published. The question you asked, Mr. Baba, is actually very complicated because there are two dimensions of it. One is the tool itself, and another is the data on which the tool will actually handle. So if some of the participants today are new to this topic of resource adequacy, for them, I would like to say a brief about that. Look, on one hand, the load is fluctuating. But these days also the generation from solar and wind is also fluctuating. So we are not anymore, no longer dealing with one type of fluctuations, but we are talking about two layers of different data sets of variability and uncertainty. So to handle that, of course, we need to have very accurate forecasting, which Mr. Saxena already said. And also Mr. Abhishek Ranjan also said that they're trying in BRPL. The issue here is that in a geographical situation, the small area forecasting is much more difficult than a larger area. And we technically call it geographic smoothing effect. So for a DISCOM, the forecasting done is much more technically speaking difficult than overall state as a whole for a whole control area. So I'm talking purely scientific now for the time being. The issue here is that how can you forecast very accurately if you no longer only like consuming the electricity from the DISCOM point of view, because you are now started generating on your own from your solar rooftop maybe, or in the middle MV level also you have embedded wind. So therefore you are no longer interested in demand only forecasting. You're interested in net demand forecasting, which Mr. Abhishek Ranjan already spoke. So that means that you need to have ability to have enhanced capability or accuracy for load as well as solar and wind generation forecasting. The issue is the feeder level. That means in a very small and micro areas. This is the distribution company's challenge. But on the other hand, if you think about national level or at least the state level, the SLDCs, for instance, they may not be that much of directly interested for internal and small and micro feeder level. They need to know their control area, the whole state. But there the reserve dimensioning comes to a very important question. So unlike the classical approach of reserve dimensioning, now we are talking about dynamically changing requirement of reserve, which some of the Western countries, for instance, Germany, they do practice. And so, for instance, graph-Haubrich equation. So where you are talking about no longer a deterministic, but always separate components of probabilistic distribution, and then you convolute the separate factors into one net equation. So therefore, there is no question of the importance of forecasting. It is the paramount importance, and therefore the data. But if you have that done, then to use a software or tool, what Mr. Baba, you were asking, is relatively easy. Meaning, I mean to say the content of it is more difficult to achieve than the framework on which the tools are handling that data is relatively easy to handle. One can prepare their own. There are, multiple softwares available in the market, and you can have our own plugins and combine various different specific modules and to have customization out of it. So I'm not that worried about the tool part. I'm more worried about the content part. Is it a reliable, good quality data that actually is inside those tools? Thank you.
Thank you. Two of our panelists have left for different meetings, Mr. Abhishek and Mr. Samir. So let me continue with Radhakrishna sir. Now, we are changing the definition of adequacy from the generation to different parts of, generation, touching distribution, transmission, and these things. How feasible how feasible it is to incorporate it from the regulatory side. Because unless regulatory mandate is there, what we think, what is required may not be happening. See, we have to see two levels actually. One is the transmission level, another is the state level. Are they really synchronized now, as of now, on many aspects?
You're on mute, Radhakrishnan sir. In your phone, there would be a mic icon, sir. If you click on that.
while he is connecting his mic, let me continue talking to Dr. Indradeep. So, role of capacity building.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Actually, I lost the sound. The thing is that as far as you are saying about how we can synchronize distribution, transmission, and regulatory intervention things, which I personally feel we are already doing a lot in this subject. See, ultimately, the purpose of regulatory intervention comes only when to take protect the stakeholders. So we are doing it at a state level very much, in fact. But as far as someone was asking about I'll just come back to that other subject about the power market. What we are saying about the portfolios of the power markets, etc. But still, under OPEX's power by choice is still miles away from the markets. So we are trying to help there also as a regulator. In fact, I demitted my office 6 months back, but we are still as a regulator. We all are working for the better electricity. That's what I wanted to tell you. Power by market, fuel adequacy, financial adequacy. What had regulator not been there, we would have been lost anywhere else. We are trying to help in last 25 years, day in, day out.
Sir, sir, I
Yeah.
wanted to say, see, though they are physically there, but who are the people who are doing it? Whether adequate manpower is there in the DISCOM to organize it, the capacity building of it, and the SLDC manpower, SLDC computational capability, who is monitoring? See, most of the times, many SLDCs.
Adequate manpower, adequate working manpower.
Yeah,
Whether I'm honest in saying to my distribution friends also, the working manpower is also not there in the states right now. So basically, there will not been any recruitment for past 20 years. The person who joined 30 or 20 years back is still touching 60s, and they are hardly working for the things which we are facing in a big way. Manpower is facing, tariff determination is also, we are facing a lot of pressures from the tariff determination side also. Basically, most of the you have got 35 crore consumers, out of 60, 70 crore are already getting less than at least 200 or 100 units waived off or being provided by the state governments. So all these things are challenges are there. Challenges are there. But yes, I must say FSR has developed. I just wondering why you can't financial adequacy. You could have financial adequacy or also literacy.
sir, last sentence we couldn't catch. Can you speak closer to the mic?
Yeah, I was just saying in the power sector, financial adequacy is also going to be a major concern. Because all the discoms are in a bad shape right now. So how to improvise that financial state of the discoms has to be seen in a proper manner. And very energy, like power market energy derivatives have been introduced. Even very recently, power coupling has started taking place to help the other market players. So these are all regulatory interventions. We are working on that. Chali. Thank you, Shweta. Huh? Yeah, thank you. Okay, bye. Chalo. Yeah, Shweta, thank you.
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll have some
Thank you,
time.
Shweta.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye.
Hold in there.
I need to go at 5:30 somewhere else.
Okay.
Bye. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
be in touch. Okay. Thank you.
I think, Shweta, there are many questions. There are many questions are there in the Q&A section, but the respective speakers have left. So what we can do now, I think what do you propose? We'll share these questions with the panelists and get them answers, and then we can share with the participants.
I think one round of answers can go from both you and Indradeep sir. They're all related to weather data and modeling tools. And then of course we could also share it to the panelists, and a specific response we'll share back with the participants. That surely will do. But I do see a few questions on, I think, what weather data are we using? Are we able to utilize, I think, Codex data from IIMD for the weather patterns? And I think there's a couple of questions on do we have a mapping of what tools are being used at the different levels, be it at the grid or utility level? If yes, then how frequently are they being used, and what are the scenarios they do consider? So maybe first two questions on that, and then probably Ramki, we can come back to some of the other questions. So Indradeep, probably you would like to answer those.
Yeah, gladly. If you can again read out which one is there? 9 questions, I see.
I think the first is from Vijay P. Are you utilizing the Codex data from IIMD for weather patterns? Basically, what are our weather data sets that we can use?
Yeah, so actually, as per the regulation, the power generating stations and pooling substations, they need to have the scheduled, meaning forecasted information. So generally they deploy and employ or engage with external forecasters, commercial forecasters. So every forecasters have their own style and method of processing the data. So there is no generic answer to it, basically. But keep in mind that mostly worldwide practice is that numerical weather prediction data, NWP data, are used as one of the several data streams as an input for forecasting tools or models. I'm talking about the general forecasting, for instance, wind and solar generation forecasting. Here I'm not talking about the load forecasting. And for that, of course, we have in IMD or IITM, NCMR WF produces our national numerical weather NWP values. But also, in addition to that, we have ECMWF, European NWP, which is applied for India. We have also GFS, American NWP, etc. So a forecaster generally does not trust only one stream of data. General practice is that as many types of independent source of data layers they use, and then they do a statistical combination of it. So it's kind of proven by long history, like forecasting for a European country has exceeded 30 years of practice. It's not new. For solar and wind, wind has exceeded 30 years, has exceeded, I think, 18, 20 years. So a lot of learning experience has been accumulated over the years. And that's why the general practice is to have a combination of NWP as input. Your final forecasting processing chain never uses only single input for weather pattern. You need to have multiple. Now the question is the forecasting horizon. If this is the horizon you're talking about ahead, then of course B for wind and B for solar. For both, we need to depend mostly on the measured values and also NWP weather forecast for that particular location. Here is another catch, because these NWP values are having a large geographic area. So very high spatial resolution NWP values are not available. So there are a lot of development happened now and is happening now on the meteorological science group also, meaning some years back, we even didn't have a wind NWP values at certain hub height, like 100 meters for a wind turbine. But now we have a separate specific data sets, which is giving us a 100-meter hub height wind NWP, customized for wind. Similarly, there are so many data products are evolving from the meteorological community also, catering to various specific needs. So this is a dynamically evolving and development phase process. So yes, NCM and WF datasets are used. We also had used NCM and WF sets We have also used ECMWF, European datasets also, and of course GFS, American datasets also, as a combination of it. And then we see over our model train, whether you call it AI or whatever you call it, it's applied statistics. So you have a time series and you have 3 data, and you are all the time comparing the error of the actual phenomena with the predicted data sets. And with that, you can have a bias correction. So, and you have a combination value. So the weightages will be evolving over time. The more data you have, good clean data, it's better for you to arrive at the combination weightages around 2, 3, or 5 independent data streams as input. I hope that gives the answer. I forgot for the short-term intraday forecasting, which is not yet mandatory for India, but the distribution companies in India started looking at it because it's important for them. In Western countries, for instance, in Australia, in Europe, in America, this is mandatory. So there, of course, you also have the advantage of satellite-derived data for solar radiation for short term, like 2 hours from now, 4 hours from now. So those kind of things, not day ahead. So the satellite is a separate section of solar forecasting, and there, of course, it's more into cloud motion vectors and such things are there. Then sky image cameras, but they are having an artificial composition of the sky. There, a lot of image processing and machine learning is used these days. Lots of data analytic techniques are used these days. The accuracy of short-term, meaning intraday forecast, is far better than day-ahead forecasting, of course. Thank you.
Thanks, Indradeep, for that. Maybe I'm going to pose a question or two to Baba sir himself, since you will be the pseudo representative for NLDCs and RLDCs, sir. But I think one question was on the tools available. I think when we started doing this analysis on RA within the team, I think Ramki had tried to map the necessary tools that's needed, and I think there were about 40 different tools that's available worldwide, many open access, some behind paywalls, but tools do exist. But of course, as Indradeep had alluded to in the beginning, it's about what goes inside the tools in terms of logic and the data that is being fed to be able to churn out the appropriate results. So I think in the case of India, we have a lot of modeling working groups that are doing a credible job, and we'll be in fact deliberating with them over the next few months to assess what each of them can offer, as well as I think map it to this IRA framework that we're proposing and see if there's a particular tool that can deliver or a combination of tools. How can the community come together in order to give India that a host of tools that we can all use to sort of work towards these RA planning and solutions. Of course, it's not a one-off exercise. It has to be an iterative, and we keep perfecting as we go along. And that takes me to the question that Hardeep Rajput has asked. The data that will be emanating will be large, particularly if we move from a 15-minute to 5-minute interval. Do we have the infrastructure to process it or park it? I think I can say that we're trying to attempt this through the India Energy Stack initiative that the Ministry of Power is recently announced, where we're trying to build a data or a digital backbone for the country. There are a whole host of experts trying to crack this very problem to see how we can take data and park it in ways through which all the stakeholders have access based on roles, of course. So research community included if you want to do analysis, but most importantly also for those who have to deal with it more in live action. So this is not going to be an impediment. It's going to be only a matter of us trying to find the right way of making sure data is available and offered to all stakeholders. So that's coming very soon as well. Yes, sir, please.
Actually, that 15-minute to 5-minute is anyhow is coming. So
रिमूव कर रहा हूँ सर.
getting geared up,
वीडियो बंद किया मैंने.
all are getting geared to address it. Actually, see the number of course, yes, number of data points will increase, but doesn't matter. We need to have at the RLDC or at the NLDC, we need to have a better computational capability to address it. That's the point. Actually, see, like, of course, systems have to change and have to gear up. So, I mean, it's not that difficult to transition from 15 minute to 5 minute. And already 15 minute, I mean, 5 minute meters are getting installed, and things have started in RLDC and NLDC. I recently interacted with them. So it will also be addressed. It's not a very big issue. That's all.
I think, Baba, so there's a question from Suni sir. What should be LOLP in the present circumstances? Is 1 in 10 years criteria still desirable? What about demand response? The most low-hanging fruit for a country like India, it would reduce capex. Experts may kindly throw light on that. So how could we, what's your answer? Both Indradeep, I see you smiling as well. So Baba sir and Indradeep, both of you can take a
Sheikh should answer, but see, the demand response, no doubt, at the important, I mean, when the criticality comes, yes, we are anyhow I mean, in a very rugged way, where our distribution companies are addressing it with the, I mean, uncharacteristic load shedding. But that's not the scientific way of doing it. Demand response is a more scientific, calculated. So I think once we get this DSO and the aggregators will come into picture, then that exercise also will become and now we don't have the aggregators pulling up this demand and participating in the electricity market. I'm not sure whether adequate resource, I mean, regulatory provisions are there in each state. I am not sure. One or two states might have provided, but not all. So that has to come. So then the demand response also can play a part of the ancillaries, either to increase or decrease the demand and make partner in the resource adequacy.
Indradeep, you want to augment?
Not much, because Suni sir knows the best. The question is that demand response, where is the awareness in the general public? So I think that the first step is to increase or find a method to increase the awareness about demand response to the consumers. And this is a significant roadblock, I think. It's my personal opinion. But on the other hand, the flexibility as a package, or flexibility as a metric, a demand response can be, of course, embedded into that, and the whole market could be designed in such a way. But actually, demand response has non-homogeneous manifestation or experience worldwide. Some countries have experience. I mean, there's very interesting study only to observe what happened with various specific demand response program through worldwide. So what India, and within India, various communities and various geographic locations will react differently on it. So this what's investigating further, I think. Thanks.
Thanks, Indradeep, for bringing that localization aspect of demand response. We recently had a discussion with a set of experts, and I think what clearly came out is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution for demand response. Even a state cannot have like a common demand response objective. Each city would react differently based on its consumption patterns and the demographics and the local activities that are there. Some discoms have a focus more on CNI consumers. Some discoms have more focus on residential. That's again driven by some of these behavioral aspects of its population, as well as some of the policy interventions that's driving those behavioral aspects as well. So I think there's a group of think tank communities that are working towards understanding these behavioral patterns, as well as to see how we can develop these nudges to get consumers to become more active. So I think that's just started off in the country. So I think at least the research community is thinking actively, and regulators as well as policymakers are participating in trying to shape that. So hopefully we'll have something more lucrative to show on that from the community at large. I see Suni sir, thanks so much for your compliments, sir. It took 1.5 years for us to synthesize that universe. So coming from you, I take it with like a badge of honor. Definitely, I think the link for the publication has been placed in the chat. For those of you who would like to access the handbook, if you miss it out, not to worry, we will also share this as a response to the participants in this webinar to be able to access it via email as well. I see there is a question on role of capacity markets in resource adequacy planning. I think would the moderator and speakers like to take a quick reaction to that?
I think Mr. Samir Saxena has already touched upon in his response. Capacity market would be required, and I think power market regulations has made a mention of capacity market in the recent one. So I mean, it is in the annual. It will come. Only thing we have to see in what what would be its shape and color. But capacity market has been talked, so it will come.
Indri, anything from you?
No comments. Mr. Babu already summarized very nicely.
Yes. Perfect. I think there's another question on visibility of rooftop solars in urban and how can that be factored into demand forecasting and planning. I think a lot of speakers also alluded to the fact that visibility and observability of these assets is the first and foremost challenge that we need to address. And I think this will come in when through the entire digitalization wave that the country is taking up, particularly with smart meters, as well as a lot of exercise that DISCOMs are trying to understand for behind the meter assets. So I think there's on one side, the industry and the ecosystem is trying to see how we can standardize. On the DISCOM level, they're trying to see how to have registries of these different things, so that visibility could be used to one plan at the local level. Also see if we can share those registries with upstream planners so that they can also call upon these services as and when. So I think going forward, as more DERs come in and more flexibility comes in, aggregators and other new roles will emerge. And I think regulation is also, as previously mentioned by the former regulator, that would also come in to adapt to these new times that's coming in. So I think it's work in motion, but a lot of pilots have happened. But I think now it's going to move towards more fruitification of that into real-time regulations. So
can I spout it a bit?
Here it comes.
Yes, please.
Once the DSO comes into picture, I mean, so that is why I was mentioning. Actually, I was thinking to Dr. Mr. Radhakrishna about DSO, but he could not be available for a comment on it. Actually, distribution system operator, once he is there, these things will definitely get. So first of all, the aggregation also will be there. So I think the DSO, I mean, creation or establishment of DSO is very, very essential at this stage. I think there was a big report on research done by IIT Delhi along with the Terry and under the project of USSS. Mr. Soni was also there, part of the member of that committee who gave the recommendations on the implementation of DSO. I think let's hope things will be implemented at the earliest.
Indradeep, you were also reacting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to highlight that, Shweta, what you commented, this is on the infrastructure side, more metering, more registration. The knowledge and data should be there. Now there is no visibility. This is one important step. There is another step required, which is how the behavior of the solar rooftop, or that means the output production of the solar rooftop, will emerge. Think that in a city, a moderately medium size or large city, is spread across many square kilometers. So at a given point of time, when the cloud is moving, then the generation from the solar rooftop is very micro phenomenon. And this is the exact problem where a lot of discoms in Western world are actually facing. And therefore, for instance, I can give you an example of, let's say Germany, for instance. I know several discoms, they have like a network of 35 to 50 sky image camera, like a network of sky image camera, where they are observing for a short-term horizon, below 15 minutes time, that what is the likelihood of the PV power output from the fleet of the all PV rooftop. Now the question is, if you disaggregate it into the feeder level, then suppose feeder has n number of finite rooftop, and as you said, then there is a registry. We know how many and what are their types and etc. And you have a machine learning model, for instance. So you can, if you have the input information of weather, short-term weather fluctuation using sky image camera or other technologies, then it is also possible to have, like 15 minutes or 10 minutes in advance, a knowledge or information that can be calculated that what is going to happen. And this is actually now, I would not say embedded into all discoms in Western countries, but I have seen some advanced discoms who are already doing it. So such things will also emerge. This is more technological intervention, I would say. So for short-term behavior, this kind of intervention will be required. Now, on the other hand, at the moment, there is no state estimation also for discoms. So therefore, a lot of trial I have seen in middle of Germany, in England, in certain portion of California, where they're trying to have AI/ML based approach for approximation of the state estimation. It's not accurate estimation. They're replacing the expensive capital cost for installing a state estimator for discom by approximation in AI/ML tools. So as a combination of all such interventions, I think that the future will emerge in that direction, I think, for the distribution sector.
Thanks, Indradeep. I have a curious question. What's the delta or errors to this approximation? How accurate are they? Is it?
It all depends. The RMSE, if you say that for short-term horizon, the accuracy is generally very, very high. But here there are two layers. One is the temporal and the spatial. The spatial is a problem because we are talking about discom. We are talking about a feeder or a couple of feeders, which is only in 1 kilometer area or something like this, meaning short, narrow, and your input weather information from NWP might be 30 square kilometer. One value for 30 square kilometer, same value, something like this. So we are talking about technical challenge is to how to decompose of spatial from higher square area to lower square area. There, the pointed approach of sky image camera is a point measurements. They're measuring the same. Has been quite successful for very short-term forecasting for solar. Thankfully, we do not have much wind in our discoms directly in the system. So this generally, so far in our country, the wind farms are separated. Unlike, for instance, Denmark or Germany, where you still have medium to small size, one turbine, singular turbine is rotating. Such things are not that much in India. So the mathematical challenge to model the wind forecasting is not coming for the discom embedded problem. But for solar, is a combination of satellite and a combination of the sky image camera. This combination, along with mathematical processing tools, you call it AI tools, etc. This is at the moment the cutting edge is in the Western world. Keep in mind, 5 minutes market also in Australia, New York also, for instance, ISO. So, and if you see the history of last 5 years in Australia, significant solar rooftop penetration is there. Then they are doing the forecasting for 5 minutes in the distribution grid. Just an example. And what is their experience, for instance? So all these things will emerge. I'm very optimistic that in India, it will also have pretty good and will not do mistakes. We will also already have certain knowledge from other countries' situation. We will have a little bit leapfrogging. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Indradeep, for patiently giving responses to all the queries. I think we can wind up.
Maybe just one or two remarks, Baba sir, then I give you the floor to conclude. I see some more questions on the how parts of the frameworks. I think that's the next step. What we have done as a first step is to identify the what. That in itself is a large list that we have. So we have presented a menu of options for all of us. Now what we need to do is take that menu of option and identify the how for each country, because the local dynamics would determine the how part. So that's the next step. And as a first step, we are going to do that for India with the Indian stakeholders. So we will collectively be able to come up with the India-specific IRA framework that can help us address the how, what should be those matrices that we should take in if it were to be reliability or resilience. And then there was also a question about how do we model this once we decide the how. Definitely, that's the third aspect of the program that we want to do, which is to work with the modeling community to identify the modeling complexity or capabilities and what are the needs of this, so that we can share that information through peer learning and be able to come up with a more suitable handbook on exactly how to model this if you were to do this for the case of India. So that's in the pipeline. All of this good work takes a lot of iterative process. So that's what we intend to do over the next months or even a year, and continuously improve that through the loops. So that's, I think I have addressed most of the questions. There's one on third-party demand response agencies in India. Intuitively, I would say yes, because all of the different loads behind the meter might not be big. So you need to be able to bring in, to aggregate, also to participate on the time blocks for anybody to call upon those as a flexibility measure. So I think third-party business models will emerge as soon as regulation gives the right kinds of signals. So I think it's not too far away in the future from what I sense from both the DISCOM and the regulatory ecosystems. So I think with that, we've taken in almost all the questions from the audience, but if you have more questions, so you can reach us through email, through LinkedIn, through Instagram, whichever channel suits you, and through to the experts also directly. We'll be happy to engage in this continued exercise. And I'll give the floor back to you, Baba sir, to conclude today's discussion and close it.
Thank you, Shweta. And the most important point is that we need quick enablement from the the regulations and the capacity building, bottom up demand assessment. Actually, Abhishek has explained, given the status of Delhi, Delhi is much better place or a position compared to many other states, where a lot of bulwark is still remaining yet to be done from the demand assessment. That's a big task that each state has to take, or each DISCOM has to undertake. So the sooner the demand assessment is made perfect, or we can't make anything perfect, but we have to keep on improving every day. Then the adequate training, adequate understanding. Basically, we have to appreciate the subject and understand the processes and make it happen on a regularly and rhetorically, very, very sincerely. When we say regular, simpler, and sincere. So these three are very essential for any improvement in the present scheme of things. So let's hope all will get geared up and see that how our power system will be more reliable and resilient with the IRA framework. So thanks a lot to all the participants for being with us for so long. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
think. Thank you, everyone, and wish you a lovely evening. Thanks, Indradeep, for that enriching discussion. Thanks, Ramki.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So, Indradeep, so thank you, Shweta.